Maggie is a single mom who hates Christmas and is obsessed with the safety of her son Jordan. She hires Casey as Jordan's tutor. She likes Casey but is determined to not let any man hurt her again. In Lake Tahoe, 13-year-old Maggie and her friend are making angels in the snow with their hands. The boy believes in angels, just like she believes in God without seeing him. He knows that she's cold, so he gives her his glove. He asks her to put her other hand in his pocket. How adorable. He takes Maggie to the photo booth and gets a picture with her. He even kisses her on the cheek after asking her to close her eyes. They decide to meet the next day on Christmas after they open presents in the morning. Maggie comes home to find her mom, Terry, crying with a note in her hand. She learns that her dad has left them on Christmas Eve and he's never coming back. They decide to move out of town the next day, and the boy helps her. Maggie knows Christmas will never be the same again, but he asks her to not stop believing. 20 years later in Westchester, Maggie calls her friend Lauren since she sounded upset. Maggie is a busy lawyer and is leaving the office to pick up her son, Jordan, after school. Maggie is upset that Jordan's chaperone, Miss Klein, is not around when he's outdoors. He assures her he's safe, but Maggie has a special agreement with the school. Maggie reminds Mrs. Deely about their agreement, but she assures her that Jonah is perfectly safe on the premises. Deely wonders how Jordan is doing at home because he's not living up to his potential at school. Deely suggests getting him a tutor since he's falling behind in classes. Deely feels Jordan is smart, but distracted. Well, we can see the problem. Maggie doesn't want Jordan to spend time with a stranger, but Deely shows her Jordan's math test. It's incomplete and has a drawing of a couple. Maggie wants to do something fun with Jordan for Christmas break and hopes she can get some time off work. Her idea of fun is going to the library. Good luck, Jordan. Maggie promises a surprise for him when they get home, and he hopes it's a real Christmas tree. Maggie avoids them every year and claims they're a fire hazard and dirty. Now that's a true Grinch. Jordan wonders if his dad is coming home, but she reminds him they discussed that he's not. Jordan is still happy that Terry's going to spend 2 weeks till Christmas with them. Terry loves the holiday craze and looking at the lights in the city. She gifts Jordan a surfing Santa ornament for his tree. He shows her their fake tree, and Terry is disappointed Maggie doesn't get a real one. Maggie asks her assistant, Martha, if she can move around her schedule to get 3 days off for Christmas. Maggie has a packed schedule, and she's in court every day for the rest of the week. She only has some time off after the 1st of January, but that's not helping her case. Lauren has also called twice, so Maggie asks Martha to set up a meeting. Martha also reminds Maggie she has to call the tutor and asks her to breathe. Good call. Maggie looks at the drawing Jordan made of a happy couple with a child and feels conflicted. Casey is selling quilts at his diner to help women at a cancer clinic in Vermont. He gets a call from Maggie when he's very busy and admits he tutors kids. He asks about Jordan, but gets distracted by his customers. Casey asks Maggie if he can call or call back. He also suggests she drop by his diner if she wants to meet in person. Maggie doesn't like that he sounded distracted and owns a diner. Terry feels having 2 jobs is good. Maggie makes no excuse not to get a tutor for Jordan and feels like she knows nothing about Casey. Terry offers to check out his place the next day to put her mind at ease. Terry points out that Maggie can't keep Jordan locked away from the world and needs to trust someone. Someone had to say this. Maggie admits she's worried because it's Christmas, but promises to call Casey again. Jordan is writing a letter to God when Maggie finds him. He doesn't want to go to bed, but his charm doesn't work on Maggie. How surprising. Maggie needs him to get rest, so he can go on an adventure with Terry the next day. Jordan is worried it'll be boring, like grocery shopping. Maggie assures him he will meet someone new, and they can discuss school stuff if Jordan likes him. That doesn't sound fun at all, but he agrees to do it. When she leaves, Jordan asks a question to God about whether he can make his mom like Christmas. That's not happening anytime soon. Billy has started at the diner before Casey arrives since he's restocking for the busy season. Casey loves Christmas and feels they should keep the pop-up open all year round. Billy doesn't like the idea of Christmas off-season, but Casey dreams of a world where every day is Christmas. Finally, some Christmas cheer. Casey remembers his late wife Amy from a quilt kept at the diner. Tanner compliments the perfume Maggie is wearing, which he gifted her. He wants to take her out for dinner that night, but Maggie makes an excuse about her mom being over. Tanner is excited to meet her mom and feels it's time for him to meet Jordan too. Maggie clearly feels differently. Jordan wonders if Terry had electricity when she was growing up. He wants to be an inventor like his dad. Terry explains that his dad only represents inventors. He helps them when they need a patent or sue someone, but he doesn't invent things. Jordan feels it has been so long that he doesn't even remember his dad. There's surely a story here. Terry wants to continue their adventure, and they head out to look at Christmas trees. Billy asks them to freely look around. Lauren asks Maggie to represent her since Charlie is getting a divorce. Lauren admits their relationship has been tough for a while and doesn't know if Charlie has hired a lawyer. Maggie understands how it feels to go through all this during Christmas. Maggie doesn't want to lie to Lauren and admits it never gets easier. She feels the scariest thing is a man falling in love with them because then women let their guard down. Well, that explains the grinchiness. Lauren also relates to it because she's sitting in an attorney's office asking for help. Terry thanks Casey for letting Jordan help Billy with the trees since he loves them so much. She explains that she came to check him out after Maggie called him the other night. She asks how he manages to split his time between tutoring and the diner. Casey explains that the Christmas pop-up is a new thing they're trying that year. He started a school a few years ago with his wife in Vermont, where some of the neighbors were quilters. He's now showing their craft to the world. Terry loves the poem stitched on a special quilt on display. She's surprised it hasn't sold yet, so Casey clarifies that it's a wedding gift. He admits they sold the school a few years ago, after which he came to New York and started tutoring. He also bought the diner to make some extra cash and stay flexible. Billy can see how invested Jordan is in the trees and asks if he wants to help unload some fresh ones. Jordan needs Casey's permission for that, so he runs inside to beg Terry and Casey for help. Casey is more than happy to let him help and feels it'll give them time to bond. Casey keeps handing Jordan the trees and feels he's doing a great job piling them. Jordan falls under some trees while doing it and injures his hand. I'm imagining Maggie's face right now. Jordan feels great and wants to do it again, but Casey and Billy don't let him. Good call. Jordan doesn't care about his arm because he has a lot of fun. Casey and Jordan discuss a math equation, and Casey tries to make it fun for him. Maggie is as usual worried about Jordan's arm and doesn't greet Casey properly. They assure her it's a little bruise, and Jordan keeps gushing about how much fun he has getting swallowed by trees. Like Maggie will understand that. Casey explains that they are unloading trees, but he gets interrupted by Tanner. He has driven Maggie to the diner and discusses how worried she is about Jordan. Really? That's a first. Tanner greets all of them, but Jordan feels uncomfortable when he's trying to be friendly. Maybe he's trying too hard. Tanner asks Casey for dinner place recommendations, so he suggests an Italian restaurant nearby. Jordan stops midway to admire an art piece with a family as he draws on his math paper. Casey explains it was handmade by a local artist, but Maggie drags him away for dinner. Casey watches them leaving the restaurant later and how Tanner is bonding with the family. Maggie thanks Tanner for the dinner, but feels Jordan was unusually quiet during it. Tanner is sure kids get over that and discusses how fun her mom is. Tanner wishes to spend a lot of time with her for Christmas. It doesn't seem like a good wish to her, so she sees him off. Terry didn't know Maggie was seeing someone, and she admits she's not sure about it. It's kind of obvious. She feels Tanner is great, but it's more of a convenient relationship since they work in the same building. Terry reminds her it's time for her to get back out there. But Maggie remembers Terry didn't move on when her dad left. Terry feels that's different because Maggie still has the chance to be happy and find love again. Maggie admits she only remembers being happy last time when she was 13. Doesn't come as a surprise. She remembers her first kiss with the sweet boy in Tahoe who gave her his glove. At that moment she felt happy and thought that's what real love is like. She still remembers that his name was Cade, and she felt great with him. Wow, what a mystery. She remembers that her dad left right after that, and her husband Randall also left 3 years ago, a week before Christmas. Ouch, that must be harsh. She also spends her career dealing with sad people as a divorce lawyer. All of that has just made her stop believing. Why does that sound familiar? Maggie still feels this is more about Jordan, because she doesn't want him to go through that pain again. Terry asks her to not close herself to love, and points out how obsessive she is. Maggie insists the clothes need to be folded properly, and she's not a control freak. Of course we believe her. Jordan adds to his letter to God and hopes Maggie can be happy again. He's excited to go to the museum with Terry the next day. Jordan wonders if Casey can be his tutor because he heard Maggie and Terry discussing it. Terry also feels Casey is a nice guy, but Maggie doesn't know anything about him. I mean, he sounds great. Terry remembers him mentioning that he ran a school with his wife in Vermont. The fact that Jordan's teacher recommended him also proves that he's responsible. Fair enough. Maggie reminds them Jordan got injured after 10 minutes with him. I wondered when this would come up again. Terry explains that Jordan was only doing what normal kids do. They beg her to consider it, so she decides to think about it since they're ganging up on her. Someone has to. Billy brings the saddest tree in the lot to Casey's house, but he finds it beautiful and unique. Casey gets a call from Maggie and apologizes for alarming her with Jordan the other day. Maggie insists she's over that by now. or is she? Maggie asks if they can meet to discuss tutoring, but she's busy during the day. He invites her to his place for dinner and offers to cook for her. Billy teases him about Maggie, but Casey insists he wants to cook because Maggie must be tired after working all day. Isn't that sweet? Maggie feels his house smells amazing and asks him to not go through so much trouble for her. Casey loves cooking and asks her to taste his pasta. Casey explains that his tutoring process is more organic. He feels kids are natural learners and wants to respect their independence. He understands that forcing them to learn in a regular way can be boring. Maggie is convinced because Jordan still hasn't stopped talking about the relativity principle that Casey taught him. He agrees to start working with Jordan over the Christmas break, but asks if they can study at the diner. It's a busy season for him, and he feels it will help Jordan hone his math skills. Maggie seems to trust his process. Well, that's a first. She asks about Amy, but Casey admits she passed away 3 years ago from cancer. He feels life doesn't always go as expected, but hearts learn to heal along the way. He thinks if they didn't move on, they wouldn't make it past the age of 13 after their first heartbreak. Again, it sounds a little familiar. Terry drops Jordan off for his first session with Casey and lets him know she loves him without embarrassing him. Casey decides to teach Jordan math while sorting out the inventory. He asks Jordan to count the ornaments in each box and then multiply by the number of boxes for each unit. Jordan starts doing mental math, but asks Casey if God can read human letters. Casey believes God isn't particular about the way in which a wish is made. They know God must get a lot of letters, but Casey asks him to have faith that he will read his letter. Maggie makes Martha set up a lunch so she can talk to Lauren. She's trying to save her energy for her life, which seems to be falling apart. Maggie assures Lauren she's there for her. Lauren has found the name of the lawyer representing Charlie, who turns out to be Tanner. Now that's interesting. Maggie confronts Tanner and asks why he took the case when he knew she was friends with Lauren. Tanner explains that it's his job to take clients just like she does. Maggie knows how he fights in court and realizes he will make them hate each other and drag the case forever. He asks her to think about the billable hours, but she reminds him these are people with kids. He feels Maggie is a tough attorney and doesn't know why she's getting emotional. She also handles divorce cases and thinks she should treat this as a business. What a productive conversation. Maggie wishes she could live inside one of the snow globes at Casey's diner, where everything is safe and quiet. Casey has been collecting these for years and feels there's something about the universe being frozen in a globe. The first thing he ever bought was also a snow globe, which he still has and is kept safely at home. Maggie thanks him for helping with Jordan. She loves how excited Jordan is about percentages after spending a few days with Casey. He's also talking about Galileo, but Maggie has no idea how to hold that conversation. Billy brings Jordan back in but takes him outside again when he notices Maggie and Casey vibing. Good call. Casey asks Maggie to join him for a Christmas stroll on Main Street. It's an annual tradition in which the shops shut down and they hand out cocoa and cider. Sounds like her worst nightmare. He admits Jordan told him to ask her. This makes sense because she knows Jordan wants her to like Christmas. Maggie admits she's not into Christmas, so Casey asks her to think of it as regular exercise. During the stroll, Casey starts teaching Maggie about Galileo and everything he invented. He agrees to teach her about Newton next in exchange for a home-cooked meal. She clarifies that she's terrible at cooking, but he's ready to take his chances. He sounds brave. They also notice how well Jordan is fitting in, and Maggie admits the stroll was a good idea. Maggie tries to find the saucepan they need for cooking, but she takes out a sauté pan instead. He shows her the correct pan and enjoys that she has no idea about the kitchen. He asks her to chop something but feels they'll eat next week because of her pace. I can't blame him. Maggie admits she took on law school because it just seemed like a good idea. She wanted things to make sense and felt laws create some order in life. She wanted to understand human nature, but admits she's not any closer to figuring that out. At least she tried. It hasn't been easy, but she knows there's no turning back from law now. She's excited about the dish she watched Casey make and plans to take credit for it. Jordan and Terry don't believe she made it, so she claims Casey helped a little. No one believes her. Jordan takes on the role of the cashier at the diner so he can calculate the change he needs to give out. Casey shows a customer around, and Jordan goes to check out the same showpiece with the family again. Maggie is excited to pick him up and asks him to wait outside. Casey admits Jordan is doing great and has mastered mental math. Casey gets nervous and fumbles while he tries to ask Maggie out on a date. Maggie has an office Christmas party on Friday, but playfully agrees to a date with him on Thursday. Wait, what happened to Tanner? On their date, Casey discusses how much Amy loved Christmas. They decided to sell the school in Vermont and move to New York when she got sick. She fought a lot with the disease but couldn't win. Maggie thanks him for trusting her with his story and loves the place he has brought her to. She closes her eyes and wants to stay there forever. Casey asks her to really listen to the crackle, which can sometimes tell you how old the wood is. That surely sounds magical. She gets a call from Tanner, who has dropped Charlie as his client. He also asked Charlie to not rush into things and to give his marriage another chance. He admits he changed his mind because of her. Now that's a twist. Lauren is confused because she doesn't know if she should give Charlie another chance. Maggie doesn't want to take notes because she feels there's no right answer. Her best legal advice is to ask Lauren what her heart wants. Well, that's not helpful. Maggie thanks Tanner for helping Lauren and Charlie give another shot to their marriage. Tanner knows this is bad for business, but he is happy to move mountains for Maggie, clearly. He reminds her she's his date at the office party and wants to pick her up. Casey is more cheerful than usual in the morning, and Billy can tell that the date went well. Did it? Billy has never seen Casey like this, and he admits there's something about Maggie. Billy asks if he's ready to open his heart and suggests he needs to let go of the past if he's looking at the future. Tanner informs Maggie at the party that his boss is making him a partner. Maggie is happy for him, but Tanner feels he wants to share his success with her. He asks if they can make this official, and gives her 2 first-class tickets to Italy for next week. He wants to be alone with her and bring in the new year. Well, this is awkward. When Tanner gets called to the stage, Maggie asks Martha to make sure Tanner gets the tickets back. Casey finally donates Amy's quilt, and knows she would have wanted that. He asks Maggie if she wants to meet. Jordan is excited about them hanging out with Casey, and gets ready quickly. Casey points out that Jordan is talking to a girl he has been eyeing for 10 minutes. Maggie is afraid she will hurt his feelings. Of course she is. But Casey thinks Jordan can't get anything unless he takes a chance. He asks Maggie to take a chance with him and dances with her. He kisses her and admits that he's falling in love with her. Maggie gets scared and claims she can't do this with him. Well, that's bad. Casey asks for a proper explanation other than Christmas is hard for her. Maggie admits that she went to Lake Tahoe with her family when she was 13 years old. It was the happiest time of her life, and she remembers the snow. She also remembers her father abandoning them on Christmas and how it broke her mother. Casey assures her it was a long time ago, but Maggie explains that the same thing happened again when Jordan's dad walked out during Christmas. That's too harsh. Since then, Christmas has been a reminder that being hopeful is dangerous for her. Casey asks her to stop holding on to the past, but she makes him realize that Jordan is her life. She can't do anything to hurt him again. Seems like she's saving herself, but okay. Casey asks her to believe in Christmas miracles, but she feels they never happened to her. Jordan writes to God to make his mom happy again. He feels God should see that Casey makes her happy. We can see it too. Casey seems unusually glum the next morning when Billy greets him. Casey starts playing with a snow globe and remembers something. He asks Billy to look after the diner while he takes out his first snow globe from Tahoe. He also finds his old photos with Maggie and knows who she really is. Well, this is an interesting turn of events. Jordan and Terry are dropping off some Christmas gifts for Casey, and Jordan hopes he can continue working with him. Jordan is excited to give Casey his gift, and even reveals Terry made him a scarf. Terry doesn't know what happened between him and Maggie. Casey just asks her to let Maggie know he's thinking of her. Time to reveal who he is, right? Casey also hands over some presents for their family, but asks Jordan to wait till Christmas to open them. Jordan asks for Casey's help to deliver a letter to God. Casey assures him God doesn't care about spellings and that it'll work out. Terry points out how ridiculous the gifts look under a fake tree. She makes a good point. Terry feels trees are only a fire hazard when people get too lazy to take them down. Jordan wants to open Casey's present on Christmas Eve, but Maggie asks him to wait till after dinner. Billy tries to cheer Casey up with eggnog and is proud of their sales that season. All the trees have also sold out, but he hates it when people pile up their trees on the sidewalk on New Year. Don't we all? Billy reminds Casey about dinner that night with his wife, but Casey wants to deal with Jordan's letter first. Jordan gets excited when he gets the showpiece from Casey's shop, which he always had his eyes on. How thoughtful. Terry also loves that he got her a cute pair of Christmas shoes in the right size. Maggie's present is the snow globe from Tahoe, but she feels he gave it to her because she mentioned Tahoe once. She knows that he collects these and thinks it's a sweet gesture. Jordan wants Casey to be there with them too and walks out in anger. Maggie tries to run after him, but Terry convinces her to give him some space. Good call. Maggie stares at the snow globe and remembers her time with Cade. Terry informs her about an envelope that was dropped off for her. Maggie knows it's from Casey and realizes that it's Jordan's letter. She starts reading what he wrote about trees, and her being very sad. When she comes to the part about Jordan wanting her to be with Casey, she decides to find him. Maggie finally realizes that Jordan wants her to be brave. She knows she's focusing so much on protecting him that she doesn't realize Jordan is trying to protect her. Casey gives her another gift, and she starts laughing at how cute the wrapping paper is. Open it already. When she finds the red glove in the photos, she knows he is Cade. Casey admits he didn't know she was the same Maggie till yesterday. She doesn't believe a coincidence like this can happen to her and kisses him. Casey explains that his name is still Cade, but people called him Casey in school, and it kind of stuck. Makes sense. He asks her to think about for how long that little boy in the photo has wanted to be with the girl. Maggie never imagined they would see each other again ever, and remembers everything. She also believes in Christmas miracles now. It'll be stupid not to. She feels bad for being so crazy and protective of Jordan, and feels like she's disappointing him. She gets an idea and asks Casey to contact Billy for a Christmas tree. They sneak into the last tree in the whole city when Jordan is still asleep. Billy wants to get back home before his kids wake up and leave both of them to decorate the tree. Casey and Maggie feel it's the best Christmas ever and start decorating it. When Jordan wakes up, they're ready with the lights. Jordan watches Maggie kissing Casey and is excited about finally getting a real tree. Casey assures him God answered his letter, and even Terry is happy to see some joy around the house. She thinks of it as a Christmas miracle and asks the three of them to pose for a photo.